Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are stepping straight into the shadows. We're going to explore a grim, gothic fable all about psychological decay, existential dread, and the ultimate catastrophic fall of Yggdrasil, the World Tree. We're looking at a saga where the absolute greatest threats aren't massive armies, but the quiet, creeping forces of illusion and a completely crumbling mind. So buckle up, because this is a deep dive into the dark heart of mythological collapse. Let's just dive right into this incredibly ominous alliterative verse. It's written in a traditional Wagnerian style called Stabrime. Listen to this. Silent the seed fall, shattered the sky, Wotan's world law withers and wanes. Man, that single, powerful stanza perfectly sets the stage, doesn't it? We aren't just looking at some physical brawl here. We are witnessing the complete end of a cosmic balance. A balance Wotan desperately tried to hold together with, well, pretty fragile political compromises. The law itself is literally withering away.
Act 1. The Shattered Canopy. Picture Wotan's spear, deeply etched with brittle runes that represent order and treaties, striking out. But it doesn't hit armor, it doesn't hit flesh. It strikes against shifting smoke. This intense friction between failing cosmic law and primordial fire quite literally tears a hole right in the canopy of the decaying world tree Yggdrasil. The very structure of reality is rotting from the root up. It's like a giant puzzle slowly turning to ash.
And that brings us to Lutgard. Now, Lutgard is no simple arsonist. He is a philosophical arsonist. He perceives reality as a massive, twisted, cosmic theater. He doesn't just want to burn things down. He uses flame to actively distort perception. He casts these reality-warping illusions that trap the gods in their own clumsy, totally predictable roles.
Act 2. The Illusion of Might.
See, Lutgard's reality-warping illusions create this profound, suffocating existential dread. Enter Donar, the god of thunder. He possesses this raw, desperate need for a clean, violent purge. A physical solution to a massive cosmic problem. But Lutgard, he just plays into it. He feeds the fury. He flatters Donar's divine ego, turning the thunder god's own aggression into a blinder. The mighty god is just swinging wildly at shifting smoke, his divine might rendered utterly useless against the cold reality of the void. The timeline of this collapse actually follows a devastatingly precise sequence from the text. It kicks off with the failing law of the gods, transitions to a falling cosmic fragment, fuses into a bound blight, and ultimately ends with the twilight thorn. This whole cycle is exactly how Lutgard takes a warrior's own predictable strength and turns it into a lethal weapon against himself.
This is exactly where the psychological breakdown really takes hold. Donar represents the screaming, raw divine ego, the supposed truth of the thunder. Yet he is swinging entirely blind against a primordial threat that simply refuses to solidify. His endless, legendary strength is just completely exhausted by vapor and shadows. It perfectly sets the stage for an unprecedented cosmic catastrophe.
Act 3. The Vessel of Ruin.
Now, as a cosmic seed breaks loose from the rotting root of Yggdrasil, it becomes a vessel for frankly impossible fusion. On one hand, we have the I, that's Donar's lightning, the raw ego, the violent need to dominate. But wrapping tightly around it is the not I, Lutgard's shadow energy, his leaping laughter, and this cold, mocking embrace. Just imagine the intense internal dialogue here, the screaming I constantly being smothered by a chilling whisper, telling you that absolutely nothing you do matters. But this violent confluence needs an anchor. In midair, it slams directly into a dark elf, one who had previously touched the poisoned heart of the world tree. What we get is a devastating psychological breakdown. You literally have the divine fury of Donar fighting against Lutgard's leaping laughter, all trapped inside a being already heavily burdened with the gold greed and guilt that left Valhalla void in the first place. It is a state of agonizing, constant internal tension. Listen to the heavy, alliterative rhythm of this verse, which captures that horrific binding perfectly. Donar is driving, darkness is deep, fire and flicker fuse in the flesh. The elf is now a living, breathing anchor for these warring energies, a bound blight. They feel the internal rhythm of the god's cleansing strike, constantly warring with the trickster's leaping laughter. The spiritual decay of the entire universe is now physically fused into one tormented body. Act 4. The Final Spark. And so we arrive at the third verse, the elf's oath, binding the blood oath, broken the branch,
Root rot is rising, ruin is ripe. The tragic irony here is just palpable. Donner truly thinks his rebellion is righteous, right? That it's this great cleansing force. But the root rot is rising. The god's own actions are sealing the blood oath, and his bravery is the exact thing binding him to absolute ruin.
Which brings us to the essence of the Cinder's contract. The Dark Elf stands as the physical manifestation of this contract, acting as a slow, creeping venom within the halls of the gods. It proves a truly horrifying truth. No matter how hard Donor fights, his rebellion is merely a predetermined spark in a cycle of ruin he simply cannot escape. The decay, it's totally inevitable. This journey maps out a terrifying descent from divine order straight into absolute chaos and apocalypse. Wotan's world law withers, which leads to the plummeting seed, causing the fusing of flesh in the Dark Elf, and ultimately culminating in Donar's final desperate world-shattering tempest. And the craziest part? Every single step is manipulated by the shadow. The imagery in the source text here is, well, it's incredibly bleak. As this world-shattering tempest approaches, vultures are veering over a fading rainbow bridge. The divine realm is already a corpse just waiting to be picked clean. Lucard is just eagerly waiting there, ready to feed on the oxygen of the god's final storm.
Act 5. Smothered in Might. Looking at this whole mythological cycle of ruin, it's honestly impossible not to relate it back to our own human psyche. It's the classic battle between the screaming ego that wants to forcefully fix everything and the internal shadow that silently sabotages all those efforts. The Dark Elf, carrying all that guilt, ego, and shadow, becomes the ultimate tinder. When Donar's hammer finally falls in a kingly crash, it doesn't purge the world. No, it smashes the very foundations of the Sky Hall. It ignites the fused energy of the oath. The god's final attempt at a cleansing purge actually ensures that they are all swallowed in soot. Let's look at the final verse of this dark descent, and just let the dread of these words hang heavily in the air for a second. Tearing the tomb wall, truth is the thorn. Sinking in silence, smothered is the sun. The truth wasn't a glorious victory. The truth was the thorn that brought down the sky.
It is such a chilling narrative of psychological manipulation and cosmic inevitability. So I'll leave you to ponder your own internal battles for a minute. When you fight against the shadows in your own life, when your ego takes the wheel, are you truly the spark of rebellion, or are you just the tinder for the flame? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.